Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Late Departure. Another instance of me enjoying everything you can as an airline pilot. And I know you're probably all getting sick of San Francisco, but it's one of my favorite cities. And as you can tell by me being out of breath, I'm hiking up a mountain here near the Golden Gate Bridge. I finally made it to the other side of the bridge. Today I'm gonna walk across the whole bridge. And as usual, gonna go find some good restaurants and go see some cool things all along the way. I flew from about 4 a.m. this morning, so I was up since like 2. And I flew from Regina into Vancouver, then from Vancouver down to San Francisco. And I was sitting in a plane for too long. I feel like it's bad to just sit too much there, which is something we do quite a bit. And I figured probably a good idea to get out and get some exercise. So I always try to get out and I'll walk usually like 20-25 kilometers every time I go out somewhere. So here I am. And I want to get up to the top of this thing. I think I can take a picture in front of the place where they filmed the picture or the cinema or the film that they used in the popular TV show Full House, TV show that I watched when I was young. Anyways, so once I get to the top, I'll spare you from watching me hoof it all the way up here. And maybe we can talk about something else interesting in aviation and continue on the life of an airline pilot here. Before I start talking about flying stuff, as all my students know, and maybe some of you know, I'm a huge weather nerd, and something that's really cool about San Francisco is you look behind me and you can see all this cloud being formed as it pushes off. We got the ocean out that way, and the wind's blowing that all that moist, warm air from the ocean over top using the orographic lift coming up the mountains here. I hope you guys can hear this. It's super windy and my microphone unfortunately didn't charge today, but yeah, you can see that warm, moist air getting that orographic lift up the mountainside here is forming a whole layer of cloud, which as you can see goes right over the city of San Francisco. And actually when I was coming in today, that was the layer. It was about 620 feet or so. That's when we broke out of the layer. But that layer of cloud is being formed right here near the Golden Gate Bridge where it's coming over these mountains. And it's very, very cool to see that cloud being formed in real time. When I was coming in today, all I could see out of the top of the layer was this weird tower. I still don't know what this tower is, but it was the only thing sticking out of the fog. And when you're flying in an airplane, the last thing you want is big objects hiding in the clouds. That's a scary, scary thing. But that's what I saw when I was coming in on the approach earlier. All right, finally made it to this side of the Golden Gate Bridge. Now it's time to get down there and walk across it to San Francisco and go get some food. I think this is where they filmed the scene from the Full House. I could be wrong. Osprey, flying over the Golden Gate Bridge. Supposed to go over Alcatraz there, San Francisco. Wow. Here comes an airplane flying the approach I did earlier. Basically flying around. It's gonna go all the way back around there and then turn right onto either 28 right or left there and come in and break through the layer and land in the airport. Can't see the airport, of course, because of all the fog and stuff in the distance here. Look at the clouds forming as that warm ocean air gets pushed over these ridges and goes and fogs up San Francisco. Woo! All right, so as the Golden Gate Bridge disappears behind me on my way back here, I figured I would get around to answering another question that some people have been asking me, which is, what is the schedule like for a regional pilot, especially a new regional pilot who's low on the seniority list, And of course, keep in mind, this is for someone like me who's at a place that works with a seniority list. I know that not all of the airlines do this. Some of them have a different style of, for example, bidding for work or reserve or other things. And at my particular place, we have primarily a seniority-based system. And as I'm sure you've heard from other new regional first officers, scheduling is pretty difficult. And it's very difficult to get the schedule that you want. Quite often you're at the mercy of, whatever everyone else wants. It is very, very difficult. And sometimes the schedule can get very, very, very hard to manage, I'd say, from a time and sleep perspective. I'm doing it! Another item off my bucket list! Crossing the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco! I did it! That's the Golden Gate Bridge! Wow, look at these cables! Like a meter thick, they're huge! That's the whole Golden Gate Bridge! Let's go get some food! And so, for example, I've had times where I will be working in the daytime, maybe early morning for a week straight, and then I might get a day off, and then I have to work night shifts where I would basically be starting late in the evening and working straight through until the next morning. And it's definitely a challenge, especially for those of you who are maybe like me, a little bit older and looking to get into aviation. I would say, compared to when I was younger, it's a bit more difficult now to be able to juggle this kind of sleep schedule. I do my best, of course, and when you can't make it work, you just do your due diligence to get as much sleep as you can. But when it doesn't work, then you gotta call in a fatigue day, or that's usually the best option, because then you also have to make a report, and hopefully that will allow the company to make adjustments or improvements so that other people don't have that kind of schedule, right? So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Now, I mentioned you get a choice of bidding for what we call a line, or bidding to work and have an actual schedule, versus bidding for a reserve. And if you bid for a reserve, most of the time, you're getting a block where you could get called in, you might not get called in. It depends on the time of the year, it depends on, a whole bunch of factors, how many people are sick at the time, and that can influence the reserve, whether you get called in or not. And the plus is that you potentially get a little bit more time off. The minus is that, you're always sitting there waiting, never knowing when you might get called in. And that can be stressful in itself, but at the same time, if you're like me and you have family, then sometimes it's worth it to, have that bit of unknowing. But at the same time, if you bid for a specific schedule, you might get something you really want. Like, I haven't personally bid for any San Francisco runs, but it's something, as I'm sure you can tell, I'd be very, very interested in. It's very cool to come to one of my favorite places in the world. But that being said, as a new person who is very low in seniority, the chance of me getting that are quite low. Now, the only thing that works in my advantage is that first officers flow through pretty fast. Like, a lot of them move on to other companies and stuff. Oh, look, it's the Golden Gate Bridge and a whole bunch of other cool stuff behind me here. What a beautiful place. So that being said, if you're someone who comes into a first officer position with lower hours, you might be sticking it out a bit longer and get to climb the seniority list and get stuff that you really want, which is really cool. However, again, the issue with regionals is that it kind of feels like none of the companies really want people to stay very long. And you can see that reflected in things like benefits and salary and things like that, which is really too bad, because a lot of regional flying is really fun. And for someone, again, like me, who has a family, and, you know, regional flying gives you the opportunity to potentially be, you know, home more often or closer to home, dealing with less crazy like time shifts. Like, you're not going to be flying quite as far. Like, for example, flying down to San Francisco is in the same time zone as Vancouver. So for me, coming down here is a lot easier because I don't really have any time to adjust to. And again, that's sort of the beauty of regional flying. So yeah, overall, bringing it back to a head here, you know, as a new FO, the schedule is quite hectic. It can be quite busy, and it can be, you know, what you don't quite want in terms of, you know, the working hours or the schedule or things like that. But that's just the way it is. And if you're getting into this career, you just have to realize it's going to be tough. And, you know, I've seen that, you know, some people, you know, they take full advantage of their sick time and book off sick all the time, or do whatever if they don't get the schedule they want, or fly with the people they want. But, you know, I don't know how far that gets you in the industry. I'd say, you know, I just do my best all the time. I always try to make it to, you know, I do make it to all my shifts, and I work hard all the time. So that's just the way it is. But again, I kind of see this as a point where, you know, I have some paths to go. I have the option to, you know, upgrade to be a captain, or, you know, if I'm sticking around as an FO for a while, I'm also going to get up in the seniority list, which means I'll have my choice of beautiful places like this. But it is very difficult. So on average, you know, you're looking at getting very few of the things that you want, but hey, you're still flying a plane, and if you love to fly and that's why you're here, then that's all that really matters in the end, right? In any case, while I'm walking along here talking about new first officer schedules and things like that, I'm also showing you me crossing the Golden Gate Bridge in its entirety, one of my lifelong bucket list items. Very, very happy to do that. This is something that I feel is only possible here in the time that I have and doing what I do right now, because that's just the benefit of the job. You get to travel, you get to go places and do fun things. But again, like I said, I've been up since early this morning. This walk will definitely put me to sleep tonight, so I'll be fresh and all ready to go tomorrow. And yeah, I'm gonna keep on walking here. I'm gonna go off and have some more food and wrap things up. All right, finally I'm trying Marufuku here. I really like tonkotsu ramen. So this is one of those ones. It's pretty good. They got some nice spice to it as well, which is fun. And I'm excited to try this other pork and stuff like that. But yeah, it's pretty good so far. And I've already cheated and tried a bit of this chicken, but it's interesting. A little different from normal karage, but still pretty good. It's this thing right here. And they got a special sauce that comes with it. Decent meal. Good for my meal today in San Francisco. Well, the ramen is interesting. It's too bad. I've been looking for a really rich broth ramen. I still haven't found it yet. It was decent, but yeah, I want that really rich tonkotsu broth. But in any case, here's the last stop of today. Salt and Straw for some ice cream. All right, last stop for the day. And as you guys know, I stopped getting cones and started just getting pints because it's a better deal in the States to do that. You get a whole bunch. So I got the cinnamon snickerdoodle. It is pretty frozen, but it's pretty good. I don't get too many ice creams with snickerdoodle and cinnamon, so gotta capitalize when you can, right? Well, time to eat this, head back to the station, complete my 25-kilometer walk for today. All right, well, as you guys can see, it's Christmas here. I'll wrap this up. I hope all you guys are doing well if you're training. If you guys have already started working, that's great too. I know it's a tough time right now, but hopefully you guys get the Christmas gift of a job. I know it's tough, but you know, anything's possible. Just keep working at it. And hope you guys have a happy holidays if I don't post anything else. And remember, it's never too late. See you guys next time. Merry Christmas.